Hi everyone and welcome to your horoscope for the week of September the 7th, 2020. This horoscope is brought to you by 1millionnights.com. We have a very active and powerful sky playing out all throughout the week. We're finally, after all the chaos, all the pain, all the turmoil, all the confusion, and our limitations almost suffocating us, that we have lived through all of this summer due to the Mars, Saturn, Mars, Pluto, Mars, Jupiter squares. Finally, the predominant celestial conversations in the sky are going to be trines, so blessings, celestial empowerments, divine intervention, or any kind of blessing, from the smallest gestures of goodwill to big miracles. This is where the universe is offering us a small moment of respite, a small moment to rest, regenerate, gather our strength, and of course, try our very, very hardest to adapt ourselves to this Mars-Saturn square. Because yes, on one hand, this energy is not as strong right now, but it isn't really over yet. Because next week, on the 10th of the month, Mars is standing still in the sky, preparing to go retrograde the next day. Which means, on one hand, that on the 10th of the month, Mars is going to be extremely powerful and very, very strong. Mars in its home sign of Aries, it is the warrior energy. It is the sovereignty of our wills. So it can manifest as conflicts naturally. Rage, anger, intolerance, everything that frustrates us can just all of a sudden explode. But if we embody diligence and profound self-knowledge, we can turn that energy into whatever we desire. Because Mars in its home sign of Aries, it represents all of our survival instincts, our survival skills. It is basically the sovereignty of our wills, which we actually use to navigate through earthly existence and nature. Now, I would like to share with you a personal metaphor how I see Mars in Aries. I kind of associate Mars in Aries with the praying mantis. Now, the praying mantis represents nature's top predators. It is a being who throughout many hundreds and thousands and even millions of years has perfectly managed to embody how Mars in Aries plays out in nature. Well, look at the symbol, the physical expression of the praying mantis. It doesn't really need any kind of poison. It doesn't need any kind of biological weapon to basically hunt down its prey. And usually the prey of the praying mantis is 2 or 3 times as large as the mantis itself. So it is extremely bold. It is very, very brave. It knows no limit. It knows no bounds. It is absolutely not afraid to risk its physical integrity, its life, to hunt. And also it is like one of the most efficient killing machines, because it doesn't really need to do anything other than follow its instincts. It knows when to strike, it knows where to strike, it knows when not to back up, it knows how to intimidate, it even knows how to deceive. It is also master of camouflage. It is a perfect opportunist, because all it needs is to be in the right place and the right time, and its kill and food is almost guaranteed, regardless of how big, small, poisonous or lethal, toxic the prey is. Because simply its strategies are deeply woven into its instincts. It knows exactly not just when to grip its prey, but how to grip it in order to immobilize it in such a way where its most lethal body parts, let's say, are totally out of action and it can just do whatever it wants. Now, of course, there are moments when it backfires. There are moments when the praying mantis itself becomes the prey, but it doesn't really care. It is not afraid. It is so brave and bold that it won't back up even if the odds are against it. And of course, naturally, we could see this playing out on the world stage, Mars and Saturn square, individual versus government. For example, one of the most relevant examples without any doubt is the Belarus events, when, people didn't really care about military intervention, they didn't really care about allies of Belarus, for example, Russia, etc. They just fought for their independence, for the sovereignty of their wills, for their rights, and nothing could deter them, not even weapons, not even in any kind of intimidation, not even the military. So, at that moment in time, they fully embodied what Mars in Aries actually represents in nature. And next week, yes, we are going to have a small moment of rest from this very turbulent energy. And it's not just turbulent on the world stage, in exterior reality, it is very turbulent even individually, because the worst expression of this energy, well, it is depression, the Freudian kind of depression, where it is our frustrations that eat us up from inside. Because, regardless of who we are, of what kind of mastery we possess over ourselves, desires are still desires. And when we neglect them, deny them, or sometimes it's not us who denies them, it is our basically material conditions, our place in society that limits us and suffocates us. So if we cannot have any joy, any pleasure, any moment of passion, any accomplished desire in our lives, well, that will just turn against us and start eating us up from the inside. And very, very many people all throughout the planet, well, this is what happened to them personally, individually. But of course, the reasons for the depression and frustration, were different. Everyone with their problems and their frustrations. But another expression of this energy, it is violence, it is intolerance, it is warfare, regardless if it's physical, if it's legal, where we just file complaints, trials, sign petitions, etc., or on social media and even mainstream media. So I'm really sorry to say, but after next week, as Mars starts to go retrograde, and starts perfecting the square the second time with Saturn, well, all of this is gonna resume, but in a more violent and more significant way, because this is where the old normality, this is where the old order, the old structure has to collapse once and for all. Sadly, this is like an ongoing process which is going to last all throughout the autumn. So we have to brace ourselves for this energy. But next week, as I said, it gives us a perfect opportunity to rest, to enjoy any kind of pleasure that we might have in our lives, and to nourish our souls, nourish our psyches with fresh energies. And more importantly, well, chances are that January's Saturn-Pluto conjunction and this Mars square and last year's Neptune-Jupiter square, well, all of us experience these aspects as losses. May they be material losses, especially the Saturn-Pluto conjunction could represent big material losses for a lot of people. And this can mean money, job, career, health, house, home, place in the world, or the Neptune-Jupiter square. It can be losing your faith, losing your confidence, losing your trust in yourself. And then we also had Mars meeting Chiron in the sky in its home sign of Aries, So that can also represent a lot of trauma and repressed emotions surfacing instantly, unexpectedly, overwhelming us. So this was a very strong period of suffering, as in deep, deep suffering for a lot of people. And I say individually, because on the world stage it is very straightforward how this played out. But of course, the events on the world stage can only represent half of the problems that oppress us, that bother us, that worry us, and the other half was everything that we had individually in our lives. So this was a really, really turbulent, distressful, depressive, name it whatever you want, period for a lot of people. And this is gonna be the opportunity to fix all of this, or at least to try our hardest to prepare ourselves for the last phase of this deconstruction of the old order. So we begin the week with Mercury and Venus having changed signs. Mercury entered into the sign of Libra, and Venus entered into the sign of Leo. Now Mercury in Libra is all about the flow of energy, information, communication within partnerships, contracts, legal cases. Libra also rules diplomatic matters, it rules mediation, it rules diplomacy, it rules, for example, HR, finding a middle ground between two opposite forces. It rules reconciliation, choices, decisions, but on the world stage, especially from a legal perspective. Because Mercury will immediately form a sextile with Venus, this energy can be really, really good to find a new job, to find a new partner, for example, business partner, a partner for a project, any kind of professional association, any kind of business, anything that has to do with justice, legal cases, organizations. For example, if you have been waiting for response, reply, communication from institutions, this can be a really, really good time when you get it. If you're waiting for a resolution within a legal case, trial, court of justice, this can equally be a perfect opportunity. Or chances are you might actually choose a reconciliation, choose something alternative, because Mercury is going to also hold a quincunx, a minor astrological aspect with Uranus, its higher octave. So a lot of offers, invitations to interviews, maybe to form professional or any kind of lucrative or common goal alliances contract is favored at this time, and some can come as a surprise. Maybe even when you are not really skilled at it, or maybe even if you don't have relevant experience at it, it can just enter your sphere of awareness, and naturally you will have to make a decision, a choice. And this is where, Mercury in the sign of Libra favors rationality. Libra usually is the equilibrium between the intellect, the mind, and the heart. But with Mercury, the planet of the mind, in there, this is where rationality is a little bit more dominant. But it should be, it has to be, because Venus is in Leo, and Venus in Leo is an extremely overindulgent, emotional energy of pleasure, of small and big joys of life, of everything that delights the heart and the senses, especially luxury and extravagance. So our feelings might be a little bit way tuned up, a little bit way spiked up by this very passionate and very sensual and very magnetic Venus. So Mercury has to be an energy which balances all of this out, because, whatever decisions we have to make during this Mercury in Libra, well, chances are we really, really have to be rational, and we have to apply a lot of self-knowledge, because making commitments, signing contracts, even if that commitment is a romantic partnership, a relationship, going out with someone, dating someone, well, chances are none of this should be promised or signed or anything for the long term, because you're going to be feeling so very different when Venus exits the sign of Leo and enters the sign of Virgo, where she is debilitated, where she is in fall. Because, Venus in Leo, it is all about the inner child. It is all about the heart, sensuality, passion, self-expression. But in Virgo, it is gonna be a totally different kind of energy, when everything is going to be about practicality. What's in it for me? Of course, what's in it for me, not in a very selfish way, but in a very practical way. Because, the Virgo is service to others, but we also need service in our own lives. So Venus in Virgo wants to make us very, very self-sufficient. So our top priorities are going to be, for example, the resolution of our problems, our needs, our material situations, our works, our practical alliances, and not so much how we feel, not so much about pleasure and all of that. So that is why it's so very advised to think rationally, to have fun and dwell into the energies of Venus and Leo is absolutely fine, and it's also a must, because that is exactly what recharges our batteries. But to make promises, to believe promises, to make commitments, to sign contracts based on what we feel in our hearts, well, this is where it's not a good idea. Neither is it a very good idea to make dramatic and radical cosmetic changes, for example, because Venus is also beauty. Venus is also how we look and our self-image. So it is not really advised to change your wardrobe 180 degrees, or to make a very, let's say, irreversible hair change, or anything that has to do with beauty and aesthetics, because you might feel a totally different way once Venus exits the sign of Leo and enters Virgo. And also, this is where overspending, overindulgence, even in substances, even in escapism, even in matters of sensuality and sexuality, well, we have to have a limit, and we have to, apply a certain kind of self-discipline, because yes, it is absolutely favored to tap into all the pleasures and joys of life, but we must not overdo, especially when overdoing is dangerous. Because overspending, especially in this very unstable economic period, could basically lead even to our physical death, because we need food and shelter and so much to survive, and the winter is almost upon us. So making a very unwise investment based on how you feel, just the feeling in your heart, is not a good idea. So thank the universe that Mercury is in the sign of Libra, and it will force us one way or another to rationalize everything, especially when the Sun in Virgo is going to oppose Neptune, because that will be a very strong wake-up call, where it is our illusions, our own self-deception that we have to eliminate from our lives. And even though Mercury is not directly involved in this picture, well, Mercury is still the ruling planet of Virgo, so it is going to count extremely much in our decision-making process, which actually has everything to do with Mercury in Libra. So once again, as a conclusion, I have to repeat, whenever you go for a job interview, before you sign any long-term commitment, long-term contract, take a loan, or promise anything to anyone, or believe someone else's promises, be very sure to rationalize everything as profoundly as you can, because both you and everyone else is going to be feeling so very much differently once Venus exits the sign of Leo. So if it makes perfect sense rationally, if it advantages you, if you see this working out on the long term and not really emotionally, so not what you feel in your heart, but rationally, as in very practically, then by all means, sign the contract, make the promise, take the commitment. But if it's only based on what you feel in your heart and in your emotions, then do not. Because wait until your emotions and what you feel actually settles down a little bit. But for very short-term commitments or promises, for example, taking someone out on a date, or just do a one-time job for someone, because there is a lot of contracts and work and legal commitments which are not long-term, they're very short-term. Well, that is a very good idea to sign anything like that based on your feeling, because you can simply consume it there and then, and Venus in Leo actually helps you. It feeds you with passion, sensuality, it makes you that much more expressive, magnetic, it even amplifies your professional skills and everything, with the Sun in Virgo as well. So for everything very short term or immediate, it is really a good idea, and by all means seize all opportunities that enter your life during this energy. But of course, Venus from Leo is also going to be holding a square with Uranus from Venus's home sign of Taurus. So this energy is a little bit tricky, because Venus in Leo, as I said before, it's passionate, sensual. It's all about the big and small pleasures of life. It is the awakening of the inner child, where the inner child just wants to go out and play. It wants to enjoy life. It wants playmates. It wants to be the center of attention, or it wants to be entertained or to entertain another person. And these feelings in Leo, which is our heart spaces, can be really, really strong, even stronger than when Venus would be in her home sign of Taurus. Because even Venus in Taurus is all about the pleasures and etc. But that is a Taurian kind of down-to-earth expression. But this is a very quick, immediate, fiery, uncontrollable sensual energy. And with Uranus, well, be very careful what you wish for, because this aspect is one of the best which can lead to, for example, infidelity, where it might not even be the intent of either of these people to consume the act of infidelity, so to speak. But this is Uranus. Uranus can just create circumstances where everyone gets sucked in. Of course, the same thing can be true for anything, especially money, values, everything that you would like to experience. Venus in Leo, once again, pleasure is what you desire, what your heart burns for. So when you desire something very, very deeply, Uranus can grant it to you in a flash of an eye. But then the other thing is, can you truly handle it? Uranus knows no limits, so whenever you wish for something, Uranus doesn't really take into consideration your limits, your capacity, your tolerance. So, careful what you think about, careful what you speak, what you express, because this is like having a very humorous genie in a bottle, which can grant our wishes in great excess, so that instead of enjoying it, we might actually not ever wish the same thing ever in our lives. Now, from a totally different perspective, as in currency and money, because that is what Taurus is, our value systems, it's not a very, very good idea to make big investments. This is where you can't really trust your emotions. You have to rationalize everything. Because when something seems too good to be true, chances are it actually is. So buying extremely expensive items, or, following a wild feeling in your heart regarding matters of finances, investment, banking, shopping, etc. Or, for example, leaving your job because you already hate it so much that it's suffocating you, well, it's not a very good idea to do these massive leaps of faith, so to speak, because chances are it's not gonna pay off whatsoever. So regardless of what that Venus in Leo triggers, may it be extreme love, desire, passion, or extreme repulsion and hate, don't act on those feelings if there's any danger or risk involved, because it can lead you to a very bad situation. But of course, there are totally different kind of energies in the sky. There are supremely harmonious energies of good luck and fortune. Well, first of all, the Sun is going to be trining Jupiter, this trine being exact on the 10th of the month, exactly when Mars is gonna stand still in the sky. Now, a totally different kind of expression of Mars standing still in the sky in its home sign of Aries, almost anoretic, well, it can be that you desire something so very strongly that even the universe, even physical reality has no choice but to surrender to your will. And if Jupiter and the Sun is involved in this picture as well, well, that can represent a very lucky manifestation of your desire. So speaking about your needs, your desires, whatever you're really, really passionate, ambitious about, is a very good idea on that date. Expressing it verbally or written form, or with any kind of psychological or spiritual trick or methodology to exteriorize your desire is a really good idea. Being generous, being kind, being compassionate, showing your skills and talents, not being shy on the 10th can be also a very good idea, because it can just turn you into a magnet for good luck, for the sympathy of others. Also, the Sun in Virgo can represent the light and the brilliance of your mind and intellect. And if you apply to it whatever you believe in, your inner truth, as in Jupiter, you can have the energy of miracles right there and then. But of course, the Sun also speaks in a trine to Uranus, and on the 7th of the month, at the very beginning of the week, Uranus is going to be conjunct the Moon. So basically, your mind can be that much more magnetic. It can simply draw upon the symbolism of Uranus, which is your most superior intelligence. It is basically the infinite power of your unconscious mind, that which you cannot master or control 100%. Now, when that is basically infused, drowned with all your desires, the Moon, and the Moon is exalted, extra powerful in the sign of Taurus, well, you have the chance to trigger some kind of quantum manifestation, because Uranus in the earth sign of Taurus is all about the physics of reality as well. So you can turn your own mind, your own brain, into a very super powerful quantum electromagnet, which can just alter reality as you desire, as long as you have a sufficient energy input. But of course, it doesn't have to be as complicated as this, because the Sun in Virgo is also going to trine Saturn and Pluto as well, not just Jupiter. So that can play out in so very many different ways. It can represent a massive karmic reward for something that you have done in the past. Sun trine Saturn and Capricorn. It can be the service that you offered the world, the universe, other people. It can be all of your favors that you have done for other people. All the times when you were diligent, when you embodied equity, when you did the right thing, when you sacrificed, when you worked, when you gave your time freely to others. All of that can return back at you right now. It is a really good aspect for good karma to manifest in your life. Or it can have to do with anything which is linked to Pluto symbolism. All of your sacrifices, everything that you surrendered, everything that you gave up on, or all those times when you used your personal power for the greater good to do something positive in the world, all of that can simply reflect back at you at this time. But of course, it doesn't really have to be a good karma which comes from the past or the distant past. It can simply be instant good karma. Being generous, kind, compassionate to other people can simply instantly trigger some kind of karmic reward, good fortune in your own life. Expressing your skills, talents, everything that you are good at, everything that you have learned to master, all of your know-how, all of your expertise, the sun in Virgo, the light of your intellect, service to others unconditionally. It can also trigger instant karmic manifestations where whatever good gesture you project onto others or onto the world can somehow reward you in the most mysterious and miraculous ways instantly. And of course, Jupiter in Capricorn, a moment of big generosity, especially if that was part of your past, when you were actually in a very good material position, because you had to be the Jupiter in Capricorn in the life of someone else. All those gestures of big giving can all of a sudden return back in your life, but exactly in the measure and in the form that you needed the most. So this is a very powerful, miraculous energy. And this is exactly where the miracle, the good fortune, the good karma is not just thank you, not just honors, not just someone sending you a cute bear picture as to thank you, or not a good dream or optimism or hope, but something real, something palpable, something material, because these planets speak from Earth signs, both Uranus and the Sun, and both the Sun and the Capricorn planets. All of this is Earth energy, so it has to be something which is really, really palpable, useful, practical in a strict material sense. So money, any kind of help, or any kind of advantage which leads you to money, or for example, being connected to a highly skilled professional which would simply be outside your sphere of influence at any other time, and now by miracle that professional might want to help you. But of course, this really depends on where all these signs are located in your personal chart, but either way, it is really good news. Now, of course, speaking about luck, on the 8th of the month, we can have a similarly lucky opportunity, because that time it is the moon exalted from the sign of Taurus, making it super powerful, trines Jupiter, Pluto, and Saturn in the Earth sign of Capricorn. So that can be a very mystical, spiritual, or psychological way of attracting good fortune in our lives. Moon and Taurus, it can be some kind of artistic talent that we possess. It can be simply the energy of our self-worth, self-love. It can also be our deeply rooted core beliefs, which of course are positive or constructive. For example, like we may have a very poor and scarce material situation, but ever since we were a child, we kind of just knew that we were meant for something much greater than that. And that can be a core belief of yours, which, surprise, surprise, it triggers, and all of a sudden, you might win something or gain something or be awarded with something. Now, of course, even though these energies are supremely harmonious, they are blessings. Basically, these are gestures when the divine just offers us food for our souls, food for our beings, in order to, make it through the very hard autumn that awaits all of us. But chances are that this is where there is one requirement for us to be able to tap into this energy of good fortune and blessing, and that is the Sun opposing Neptune. Now the Sun in Virgo is definitely the light of our minds and our intellect, but this isn't the Gemini or Aquarius kind of expression of our intellect, as in the highest philosophies where our thought processes turn into sci-fi, where we try to comprehend the impossible, etc. But this is the Virgo kind of intelligence. This is everything that we can actually accomplish down here on Earth right now. So everything that we already master, this is where we have to tap into our potential, but not the potential which is unavailable to us, but the one that we actually worked for all throughout our lives. So this is basically the true light of our intellect that we have right here and right now, while Neptune in the sign of Pisces, it is our, how should I even express this in a very clear manner? It is the ethereal light of our spirit, everything that sources from our faith, from our non-linear logic. Basically, it is the core of our spirit, Neptune. But the problem is that Neptune can also be illusion. It can also be very, very deceptive, especially self-deceptive. Just think about extreme idealism, naivety, believing in something despite all logic and rationality. Now, naturally, all of that is Neptune, where the most negative expression of this energy is naturally lies, deception, tricking someone, making someone believe something which you know very well that it isn't true. Of course, you can also be the victim of this, because self-deception also falls into this category, especially right now when Neptune is retrograde. So this is where our biggest enemy right now is our own idealistic beliefs, everything that we deceive ourselves with. And the positive expression is fantasy, dreams, escapism, done with limit, artistic expression, music, everything that makes our lives beautiful, but it is an illusion because beauty is an illusion. So when these two planets stand across the sky from each other, this is where it's always a reality check. Now, we had this aspect last year as well, and that kind of brought us down to earth a lot. And this year, we basically have the same expression of that energy, just that right now, the Sun is empowered by Uranus, and Uranus is objective truth. Uranus is like the highest octave of information, of truth, of everything that has to do with how reality actually functions. So fortunately, this is where our delusions, our self-deception, our misaligned beliefs, our self-victimization tendencies, our inability to release the past traumas, etc., as in the most negative expression of Neptune and Pisces. This is where they won't have the upper hand anymore. If we truly want to embrace the truth, if we truly want to live free of illusion, then this is our opportunity, and all we need to do is desire to know the truth. Our own personal truth, of course. There isn't objective reality. Everything is just a matter of perception, but still that can take on a very unhealthy way, where each and every step defeats us, or it can have a very healthy way, where we can use that Neptune as art, as inspiration, faith, prayer, spirituality, connection to source, inner creativity, to empower ourselves and make our intellect, Sun in Virgo, that much more gentle, beautiful, inspirational, make everyone smile or feel pleasant. And that is basically the most healthy expression of Sun opposing Neptune, we need a good dose of reality and intellect naturally, but also we need a good dose of art, inspiration, and the most beautiful, joyful, and playful manifestation of the spirit. And when we can embody both the Sun in Virgo and Neptune in Pisces in its most positive expression, then we already are an inspirational force working in the world. And if we do that, and if we are aware of that, well, then naturally blessings can enter our lives, and the universe will conspire in our favor and protect us from any harm, because basically that is what divine beauty represents. Those who are very superficial can use the expression of beauty, may it be their own personal beauty, for example, their physical bodies, etc., or the beauty of their creation, to draw upon the attention of other people. But those who are truly, truly wise will use their power over beauty to actually attract the mind, the goodwill, and the intervention of the divine intelligence of the universe. When a human being, even make it 1,000,000 human beings, are your biggest fans, that's just an earthly expression. But when the universe, the cosmos, the divine mind is your fan, well, that is where your existence is already miraculous, because you are becoming the divine's work of beauty, work of art. And when you are the universe's work of beauty and work of art, well then, nothing that can possibly take place in external reality can even go near as touching you, hurting you, harming you, disadvantaging you. So those people who are extremely wise, and by now they understood the essence of how the universe and reality works, can truly seize next week in order to make sure that they not just survive this autumn gracefully, but they can actually use this opportunity to have the life that they always desired. And now I would like to close this horoscope with a very special energy that we are also going to experience at the very, very end of the week, on the 13th of September, where Jupiter finally stands still in the sky and prepares to go direct. Now, whenever a planet stands still in the sky, regardless if it goes retrograde or it goes direct, its symbolism and power is greatly amplified. And Jupiter is the planet of good fortune, blessings, the greater benefic, so to speak. So this is good news for all of us, especially if you happen to have any planet at 17 degrees of any earth sign, so Capricorn, Taurus, or Virgo, because that can represent a massive blessing, a massive completion, success, breakthrough, or simply a gentle push in the right direction coming from Jupiter. Well, this concludes your horoscope. Thank you so much for listening. And please remember, if you like a personal reading, just log on to 1millionnights.com and find your dedicated advisor. We also have a special promotion in the month of September, where if you log on, create a client account, and buy any of our prepaid packages, you get 10% bonus credit on the packages that you bought. Thank you again for listening. I wish everyone a blessed and extremely lucky next week. Until next time, bye for now.